on there, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a weekly live stream where we talk about current events, news topics, as well as our movie review. With me tonight, as ever, is the homeboy Rob.
Yo, what's going on, everybody?
Yeah, not too much is going on personally for myself, but shit ton is going on for the rest of the world. We'll kind of get into that. We'll kind of get into that. After all that, we'll have a nice palate cleanser, and we'll have our movie review. Which, again, to remind you, this month's theme is Schlocktober, Andy's Revenge. And we'll be reviewing A Night at the Roxbury, starring Will Ferrell, Chris Kattan, Molly Shannon,
Daniel Hedaya.
Very young Ava Mendes, Richard Grieco.
That's right.
Yeah, Richard Grieco of.
She's.
And also a younger Jennifer Coolidge of, American Pie fame. She played Stifler's mom.
Yeah, that's right. Richard Grieco, who the fuck is that? I do not remember that guy at all. I know.
I mean, I remember him because, not that I'm that old, but because, I was a child, who was cognizant within the late 80s, early 90s, and since I had older sisters, who were, were early teenagers at the time. So, they were all about, these, kind of young, television heartthrobs, particularly on the show 21 Jump Street.
That's why I know him from. Yes. Okay. I wasn't sure. I was like, is he from Beverly Hills 90210, Melrose Place? What the? Where the fuck do I know this guy?
The confusion is understandable. The confusion is understandable.
Of course, he's from 21 Jump Street.
Well, because that's why they have that's what is it? Not to get too much into the movie right now, but what's it? Chris Kattan's character is like, oh, are you meeting up with Johnny Depp? And then kind of Richard Grieco gives him the dirtiest look you could imagine, but no.
That joke is a lot funnier now that I think about it. It's because I was like, what the fuck does that have to do? I couldn't place the guy. That's a lot funnier now. Yeah. Okay, maybe I'll bump up my rating about a half star because now that I know what the fuck is going on. Because he's a significant part of that movie, and for some reason.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I remember him being more in this movie than what I remembered, but this movie came out in the late '90s, so I was still just a kid, so. But yeah, for some reason I thought he was. I remember him being more in this movie, but he was hardly in this movie.
10 minutes, maybe. But yeah, no, I couldn't place Richard Grieco, and now I'm like, now that you mention that, it's like, okay, now that joke makes so much more sense. But
now children.
Yeah, man. It has been a week. We're gonna finish off the episode with talking about A Night at the Roxbury. It should be a lot of fun talking about that. Topic should be fun. It's been a long week. I've been doing a lot of podcasting stuff. Doing stuff for our show. For us, we just released our Dunkirk versus Dunkirk video review with our good friend Vietnam vet Santa. So we're talking about the original Dunkirk from 1959.
You didn't know that there was an original. There was an original.
I had zero idea that there was an original to Christopher Nolan's version of
Right.
Dunkirk, and so we do a little bit of a compare and contrast between the both of
Right, because
them.
they're definitely telling two different movies. It's not a one for one like re, re, reproduction
No,
of the 1958.
this is
Christopher
not.
Nolan's is not a shot for shot remake of the. I mean,
No,
not that you expect Chris Nolan to do such a thing, but it's not a one for one remake of the 1958 Dunkirk. Uh,
a la 98
yeah.
Psycho. You know, it's like
Yeah, I mean, like it would be one thing, yeah, because that's the one thing that didn't make sense. Because it'd be one thing if you're like adding something to like the story or the mythology, but it was just literally a shot for shot remake of Psycho, just in color, and with different actors. Um, and it really didn't do anything. It's or anything amazing.
do yeah. Do you know that there's a near shot for shot remake of Diabolique as well?
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, with another. Well, you know, we're a lot of Chaz Palminteri today
Oh yeah, he's.
because A Night at the Rock
I totally forgot that
there.
he was in this
Uh,
movie.
but I did watch I didn't know there was a remake of Diabolique. It's an American remake in '96, and you know, because I was like, Joyce is not my wife is not gonna watch the original black and white. Not
Yeah.
gonna do it. So I was like, oh, there's a remake of Diabolique. And in this case, I was like, well, I think the story of Diabolique would intrigue her a little bit more than Psycho did, just because it is kind of, we talked about its shock value, the ending. Um, but the one thing that it was essentially, it wasn't a shot for shot remake, but man, they definitely rode that line for quite a while. And I was like, oh, cool, we're gonna get that shocking ending, and it's gonna be really like it's gonna be great. They changed the ending.
What?
They changed the
Why would
fucking
they do
ending.
such a thing?
So there is that shock reveal, like, you know, because you're wondering like who the fuck stole the body, right? You know, the husband, yeah, and obviously
The mistress.
the mistress is in cahoots with the husband to essentially like kill the wife and essentially inherit her money. So that's which is an awesome way to that film ends in Diablo. I
Spoiler
mean,
alert.
no, you and I, yeah, we go ahead and check out our what was that? When did we do that? Like last
Sometime,
year?
yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
long time ago. Go ahead and check out that review on one of our live streams. But yeah, we were both just blown away by that ending. It's an awesome ending. So in this version, because I'm never gonna watch this again, and so the wife, although she has a heart attack because she has a weak heart, she survives, and the mistress ends up going essentially like being she ends up going against the husband. She switches sides, and tries to help the wife, and then they actually killed the husband. And it's like, what the fuck? That's not a good ending. It's and it's my wife even too. Like, 'cause she was like, oh man. She was so into it the whole movie. I was like, oh, I can't wait for her to get to this like really awesome ending, like where it reveals that the husband's actually alive, and that they were fucking with the wife the entire time. And then it felt this new one falls flat on its fucking face, and I just saw the wind come out of her sails, like in the enjoyment. It's like, man, that ending fell flat. And it's just like this. Yeah, the ending sucked. I was like, this is not how the original ended. I told her what the original ending was. It's like, that's so much better. It's like, yes, I know. I could not believe that I was so disappointed in what they did with the American remake.
Yeah. It just sounds piss poor.
Yeah, it's like, but it was following along. Like the acting was spectacular. You have Sharon Stone as the mistress. I don't recognize the. I know she's been in a bunch of stuff, but I didn't recognize who the wife was. You have Chaz Palminteri as the husband. Kathy Bates is the detective or the private investigator that is helping the kind of figure out what's going on. But yeah, it was so good up until they changed the ending. And whoever that director is or whoever was in charge of this, I don't know if there was like some sort of like legal issue that they couldn't use that for some reason. But man, like, what the fuck are you doing? Why would you? You're already, like I said, you're already essentially copying this masterpiece. Why the fuck would you change it? It doesn't make any fucking sense. So yeah, did
Isabel
that.
Adjani.
Yes, I'm like drawing a blank as to like where I've seen her from. I know she's been in a bunch of stuff, but I just I can't think of where she's from.
It says she's a French actress. It says IMDb says she's known for Possession, Subway. I don't know, just a bunch of French movies. I guess.
Maybe I'm thinking she's like another. She looks like another actress that I'm like thinking of.
Yeah, like yeah, she has that look where she kind of like she could be a bunch of different actresses, or she could be confused for a bunch of different actresses.
You know who I was thinking she was the chick from the first Mission Impossible.
Oh no, that's not her.
That's with. No, I like yeah, but maybe that's who I was kind of confusing her for.
Yeah, I think that was Vanessa Angel, I think.
Is that her name? Yeah, the one that's with John Voight's character in the original Mission Impossible.
No, that's not her.
But yeah, you know, anyways, I don't. But you know, it was going great up until the very end. So, but it was. But yeah, I was like, oh man, she's gonna love this movie.
Oh man,
and I was like, I was actually kind of. You know, I was kind of happy there was a remake. It didn't end up working out. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of. You know, we had just released a new episode of Cinemigos this past Saturday. We did a little movie called Murder by Death. It's kind of a like Clue, right? Yeah, it's kind of in that style. It's a parody of all these like 30s and 20s, 30s, 40s murder mystery novels from like Agatha Christie and a bunch of people. Pretty fun movie. Go ahead and check out that episode. I had a kind of like a last minute cameo on A Cut Above. They were needing a guest for their George Romero month that they're doing. So we did a review of his third movie, Day of the Dead. Well, his third zombie movie, Day of the Dead. So that's coming out later tonight or tomorrow. It's not out just yet. And then I also got invited onto this other podcast that I'll talk about a little bit more in a couple of weeks because I'm going on next Thursday. And kind of a cool podcast idea. It's where they are talking about the movies that inspired Quentin Tarantino, which, you know, obviously he talks about how there's, oh yeah, like, you know, all these like Grindhouse stuff, all like, you know, all these movies that helped inspire his films, which is a lot. We talked about that stuff like we've kind of done that on our own way when we've reviewed movies like Boss and a lot of films that is like or we did Lady Snowblood, that's another one. The Steel Helmet, that's another one that inspired Quentin. So it'll be kind of fun. Yeah, it was kind of weird. Like the guy just hit me up kind of randomly on Twitter, and it's kind of cool that I'll get to do that, promote our show, promote the Cinemigos, and kind of represent our little cruise on on this other channel. So I'm kind of excited about that. I'll represent us well, Andy, as always.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, and we got a feature appearance coming up on A Cut Above as well. So yeah, I don't want to give away what the movie is going to be, but it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a movie that's in our wheelhouse. I'll just say that.
All right.
Oh, and I did make up a couple of. I was allowed to make a few movie purchases this week, and I was both were on sale, so I was like, well, I'm gonna go ahead and take advantage of that. I got the Men in Black trilogy this week. I've been actually wanting to rewatch these again because they're all three of them are just fantastic. I like all three of them. Did you ever watch the cartoons, the animated series back in the day?
Yeah, I enjoyed those.
Yeah, it was a good. Same thing with like the Starship Troopers animated series was really good too. I don't know if you saw that.
That's a little after my time, and it was really hard to pin down because the stations,
It was all over
yeah,
the
the
place. I
stations they would
remember.
like play them at like such wildly different times. They'll play early in the morning, or they'll play it in the afternoon block, or or like they'll only have it on Saturdays, and then they move it back to the weekdays. And
I'm gonna see if I can track that cartoon down. I want to see actually how long it ran because yeah, it felt like it bounced around everywhere, but it was really good. And then I also picked up another film that we have covered on this channel. I think we did that with our modern black and white films. Did we do it for directorial debuts or modern black and white? I don't remember exactly, but I got Christopher Nolan's Following. They came out with the Criterion release of this film, or at least I just discovered that they had a Criterion release. So I picked this up as well, just because we ended up really enjoying the film, and just seeing where one of our favorite directors got his start is always really great, and you definitely see the bones of how Christopher Nolan started. Like you see like the bones from these other films that he worked on, and like what he was doing with his elements of like time and all that.
pretty sure that was
So I think that was.
directorial debuts.
You think? Oh, was it directorial? Yeah, you're
Yeah.
probably right because I know we did Steven Spielberg with Duel. We did. That's right because we did. Was Clerks a part of that, or
No,
was
that was
that modern day
Black
black and white? I think that. Yeah, we did Duel. We did Citizen Kane, of course, which was how we finished that month. We did Following, and what was the other one that we did? Directorial debuts. Oh, Play Misty for Me.
I know
That's
there was a
right.
Clint Eastwood movie in there.
Yeah, that was a good month, man. Those are great movies. I mean, those are some heavy hitters right off the bat for these guys. But that's all for me, man. Like I'm just, you know what? The world's gone crazy, but life is going good over here.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, nothing really. Sure. Yeah, that's not exactly true. I just this past Saturday actually, I found out that one of the guests that used to come out to um, the mobile shower, he had passed away.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
And apparently it was a pretty gruesome way to go. Because
Jesus
it
Christ.
was because I think he was potentially murdered.
Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a bit of a shocker for me too when I heard it, and it's still kind of it's still it's still kind of weighty on my chest. Um,
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
downer.
I mean, particularly in the what is it? Because in the manner in which he passed, because I mean, he was essentially assaulted, and potentially there was potentially there was a witness, because um, this particular gentleman, you know, he was kind of he was a local, and so
Hmm.
he kind of hunkered down near where my church is, behind a grocery store, and at night he sleeps behind there, and the apparently some another homeless person attacked him, uh, prior to the attack, you know, a resident of that area, was hearing all the like commotion and was telling them to like knock it off, and so potentially, and then like potentially there was a witness to to the murder, um,
Shit.
and so or it's like, or at the very least, these people, like the witness could have rendered assistance, but what is it? A buddy of mine, another a former guest of the showers. He's the one that found the body, because
Oh, man.
he kind of makes the rounds, go sees everybody, and you know Michael's body. He was just kind of he was still like in the back, and he was like covered up. And so that was kind of weird for this guy, and so he went and he discovered the body. Um,
Shit, man. That's just terrible. And you know what? I really, to be honest, when it comes to transients, it's going to be really hard for there to be any sort of justice found. And I pray that there's some sort of justice
mhm.
that happens, for this guy, just because, I mean, that's a horrible way to go. And on the other hand, I'm also I am hoping that the man knew the Lord in some capacity. Maybe we might not recognize that commitment, but I'm hoping in some sort of way the man knew the Lord, and he's with him now. He's at peace,
Yeah, I
um,
mean, because I
and
mean, because I've known the guy for like 2 years, and he there was a point where he was kind of getting his life around. He was getting reconnected with family, and like they were trying to help him out. But yeah, it was just
I think that's a good
hmm?
sign. I think that's a good
Well, no,
sign
like yeah, I mean, this
that
was within the 2 years that I knew him, but then he kind of like
yeah.
he kind of he had a substance problem, and he just like, even though there were a bunch of like resources for him, and we were very much trying to get him into like into shelters or what, or get him into programs and such. He just couldn't he just couldn't give it up. Um, and ultimately he for whatever reason, whether he just decided that it was better for him to be on the street, and
But yeah, man, I hope at some point that there, maybe not, maybe it's not in this life, but maybe in the next life there is going to be some justice for this man. And like I said, I just I hope he knows the Lord, that he's at peace
mhm.
now. And yeah, it's dangerous out there for these guys. That's why we talked about like the level of trust that these guys have, which is essentially zero. And when they do kind of welcome you into their nomadic communities, that's a big deal. It's not a glamorous place to be. It's a pretty dark place, but it's yeah. These guys definitely need. I wouldn't say not pity. They don't need pity, but they do
They need a
need
compassion.
compassion. They need compassion, and they need dignity, and they need our prayers. And honestly, like uh, I think that there's going to come a time, well, Jesus is always, in the Gospels. It's like the poor will always be there. It's like, and when he was talking about like, oh, we shouldn't like let this woman pour this very expensive perfume on your feet. We should sell it and give it to the poor. It's like the poor are always going to be here. But it's like, Jesus talking about, I'm only going to be here physically for a short period of time. Enjoy my presence. And uh, it's in that case, yeah, the poor are always going to be around in some form or fashion, whether it be through self-inflicted wounds, through like drug abuse or alcohol abuse or whatever, bad investment. More often than not, it is because of some sort of substance abuse, or just because they're just flat out crazy, which is also a thing. But I I pray for these people that are out there because it's tough, and we don't pity them, but I think, yeah, having some sort of compassion for the plight that they're in, and this is a clear example of like the dangers that they suffer every day. And this is also why, maybe as an individual, we're not going to make much of a difference, but what we can pray for and what we can kind of maybe like pour our resources into are stuff like what Andy and his church group are doing with like what they were doing with like the mobile showers and the outreach, and kind of pairing up with like other churches that are dealing with doing homeless ministry. But also, we need to pray for there to be facilities where these guys can go and get the not only the food and shelter, but the help that they actually need, like whether it be um, uh, psychological services, uh, places where they can overcome drug and alcohol addictions, stuff that's actually going to help them, like kind of hit the reset button and get them like restarted back into society.
Yeah, as much as we complain about how government sucks or whatever, sometimes
Can't rely on them.
sometimes the
We have to do
charities
it ourselves.
themselves are no better. Because what is it? Like there's this center that opened up in Northridge, called the Trebek Center, and it's the old Skateland in Northridge. And it's a shelter. People can go and have a safe place to lay their head at night.
Oh, that's right by
Yeah.
where you work.
Um, but ultimately, it's I don't know how much good it does, because there's no there's no accountability, because what is it? My friend who owns a business, like he's talked to so he's because he like I has a heart for the homeless, and so like he's talked to some people, and they let it they told him that's like, yeah, like there's like no accountability. There's like there's no onus to get off of drugs. You can actually leave your stuff in there, and like you won't lose your space, and you can keep doing drugs, and then you can go and you go in night to to sleep. And it's like, then what's the point of that place? I understand, like uh,
Right, they have a place to sleep, but it's like, it's no different than being
yeah,
out on the
exactly.
street
It's just
essentially.
it's just it's like a safer alternative to being on the street. If there's like, if no one's like, no one's trying to make you do better, and get off of drugs, or better your circumstances, then it's not doing it's not doing any good, because you're not really helping them at all. You're just allowing them to continue in their addictions. And I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, because since you know where it is, like my buddy's shop, like it's been broken in several times, and even just recently, there was some people like staking the place out, and we had to implement uh, new safety, security protocols.
Yeah, and it's like I said, that's unfortunate. It's like it what we talk about is like we don't want people to be not only a danger, we don't want them to be a danger to themselves, but like to other people. Like there's also when you're so whacked out on whatever substance you're on, whether and you look at what their viewpoint of the world is like, oh, it's a demon attacking me, or they're just trying to like, they're so addicted that they are willing to do whatever it takes to get whatever they need to get that next fix. That's what's happening, and it's like so if you were obviously we've lambasted our government. It's like, oh, let's just hand out like clean needles. It's okay for them to do drugs. It's like, no, that's the exact opposite of what we should be doing for them, and we it's we should be trying to make opportunities where they can get off of this stuff. And you were telling that story a few weeks ago about the one of the guys that you guys talked to, who he like it's like this internal struggle. He doesn't want to be on the drugs that he's on. It's like, hey, I need help. Like where can I go to get help? And then it's like the next day it's like he fell back right back into it, and it's like, and the drug addicted version of himself is like is wrestling with the version of himself that is like, I need to get off this, I need to get better. And that's yeah, it's so tragic. And great, they have a place to sleep at the old skate land, but that's not really helping in the long run. It's a short fix, sure, it's great, but it's not really a fix.
Mm, yeah, it's yeah, and I kind of worry about because with since they instituted that shelter over there, like that track of street is kind of gone to the dumps. Uh,
It
it
wasn't
wasn't
great to
yeah, it wasn't
begin
great
with,
to
but
begin with, but now it's less
it's
desirable.
horrible.
Yeah, they did some cleanup or whatever. Because before there was like this, even though there was the Skateland shelter place, literally a little more than quarter mile down the road, there was like this huge homeless encampment with like and they pretty much took over the sidewalk with old busted vehicles and a huge I you might think it's ironic, but like this huge pile of like bikes and bike parts. Um, you know,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and I mean it's funny because it's because the bicycles are a currency within the homeless community. They literally are.
Oh yeah.
And
That's
yeah, that's a
that's like a
horse.
horse to them.
But then yeah, it's just like this, and it's like up on this embankment. You know what I'm talking about, like right where like it's like the overpass for
Oh
for
yeah.
the train.
Like that,
Yeah.
like
And then yeah, and so recently they came and cleaned it out, whatever, and it has stayed uh, uh, free and clear of homeless. But I mean, just think like it took what is it? It took a really long time. I mean, yeah, COVID and everything, But even like after when everything started opening up again in like uh, late 2000, they didn't clean out that place until middle of this year.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's wild, man. I just yeah, like I said, I'm torn. Like I don't. My heart does have it has a lot of compassion for these people, and it's like and at the same time, it's like, man, these are self-inflicted wounds, and it's like we can't rely on. There's never going to be another government program, another a state institution where we can send these people who are crazy, or to get them. We don't have the laws in place for them to like be. You need to dry out, and you need to get kind of right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. As soon as we stop,
That's never.
as soon as we stop
I,
funding, public, sanitariums or mental institutions, like that was it. Because like a lot of these,
yeah,
cause a lot of the homeless are I mean, not to make it sound like too much like a pejorative, but mental patients, like literally, like there was like there was that huge
yeah.
expose of, because sometime during the late aughts, you know, uh, all the states decided to stop funding, state mental facilities, and like some of these people, like they didn't have family anymore or whatever, or at least, or at the very least, family that were willing to take care of them. And so what did they do? They bought them like one way bus tickets to warmer states like Arizona or California. Hell, even some even bought one-way tickets to Hawaii.
Jesus
And so,
Christ. Well, that explains a lot, like what's going on with Hawaii right
yeah,
now.
no,
Jesus.
especially
Hawaii is, I know when you think of Hawaii, you think of all like the like
yeah, you think
super
of paradise.
like bougie paradise. No, the real Hawaii is like Dog the
Yeah,
Bounty Hunter.
dude. I mean, not to be super judgy, but yeah, like the Hawaiians there, like the native Hawaiians, they're like one step below trailer trash.
I mean, that's their version of
Exactly.
rednecks.
I mean, not to be rude to Hawaiians or nothing. All right, but I mean, all right. If you live in Hawaii, all right.
Dude, it is 90% of Hawaii is a
There you
trailer
go.
park.
Exactly.
Like I've never seen so much meth teeth in
Yeah,
my
I mean,
life.
okay, and I fully admit I've never been to Hawaii. Okay, and yet I've never even been to
I
like the really like touristy, resorty, like cleaned up areas. Okay, I fully admit. All right, but I've talked to many people who come from Hawaii, and they say like, yeah, it's Hawaii is basically an open air trailer park run by
run
Democrats.
by Democrats for quite a while now. I can't think of like the last Republican or like any sort of like conservative that ran that state.
But yeah, so yeah, it's really sad. It's
So I
I
didn't mean for us
yeah.
to run long on that, but
I
it,
hope Michael has found the peace that he didn't have in this life. I pray that he knew the Lord, and I pray that the Lord knew him. And I hope that the Lord has welcomed them to His bosom.
yeah, absolutely.
All right.
You know what? Maybe I have a feeling we're gonna talk to this man again at some
I
point.
I sincerely hope so.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into topics for discussion. Um,
I need to find out how my
oh, okay.
champion
Yeah.
failed,
Because
Andy.
this is gonna be a short one. Uh, so uh, so uh, so let's just start off with this. Recently, it was our birthdays, But what is it? I went and had a birthday dinner with some other friends, and the topic. I don't know how we got to this topic, but for some reason we started talking about women voting. And one of my friends, it's funny because she agrees with me in my stance that women shouldn't vote, and yet she still finds a way to fight me on it. Um, and so we kind of got into it, and not like viciously or nothing, just kind of like
She
kind of
sounds like
like
an
what?
interesting person. I'll just say that. This girl sounds like an interesting person because I know
Yeah,
you
yeah,
talked
yeah.
about her before.
Well, I mean, because yeah, she former recovering feminist. I'll say. Because she used to be about like that women
Yeah.
empowerment stuff and whatever, but until she had her road to Damascus moment, and the scales fell from her eyes, and she was finally able to see the truth. But yeah, so we are talking about women voting and how um, and it's so funny because I won't get to that, but so and I was bringing up the points like it's like that, hey, how I got the vote? I had to sign up for the draft. And if I didn't sign up for the draft, I didn't
Mhm.
get to vote. And but what she did was very clever, and I give her all the props in the world. But she slyly switched the topic to about the quality of men nowadays, and like the quality of men that would be forced into the draft, which at that point I chased the rabbit, and I start and
Andy,
yeah,
you went down the rabbit hole. Why did you
because
do that?
it was a very clever redirecting of the conversation. It's a really good debate tactic, um because what is it, because she's expressed this to me uh prior, and about how she's utterly disgusted with men these days, and how like effeminate they are.
Yeah, well, you know what? You know who's to blame for that? The fucking women that we've allowed to have the power to vote and all this bullshit. Because now our world is so feminized and it's like, and so when a man shows any sort of just like normal behavior, it's like, oh, you're a toxic masculine bastard. That's the problem. You turned us into that.
Yes.
You raised up a generation of just uh, shitty men.
Yeah. And so yeah, I bit down hard on that, and I started saying like, oh, well, that's just because of where you are, where you live. So you live in the liberal hellscape that is California, and particularly within the greater Los Angeles area. So of course you're gonna have a certain bias about about men, and like what caliber of men would have to go and potentially fight in a war that you voted for. But
Yeah.
it was a very good tactic on her part, slightly
Oh yeah.
redirecting the point, because my point was
She
that
she
it didn't like my point, like what by the time like I knew what happened, I was like, dang it, we're on a different thing, so I can't go back. But the real point of it is that it doesn't matter if you're a soy boy or a giga chad. All if you're a soy boy or giga chad and everything in between, have to sign up for the draft to get the right to vote, and also to have access to financial aid for school, for like loans or grants and things like that. So a man, so like
yeah.
like women, like all you have to do is turn 18, and you
Exist.
get all of that merely for being a woman. Yeah, so
for
all you have to be
existing.
is, all you have to do is exist, and you get those benefits. Whereas a
Doesn't
man,
require that you're
you
married,
have to say, I
job.
will put my life on the line. If the country deems it necessary for me to go fight in a war, then I will do that. And so yeah, it's one of my rare L's.
We
It's
all
one of my
have them.
rare
It's okay,
L's. I
Andy.
mean, yeah, and
I
I'm not even mad
I'm,
at it. I thought, it's just it's a very good it was a very good debate tactic because
I
ultimately
wish
she was losing the
wish I,
point. So
yeah.
she had to not make it about the requirement, the unequal requirement, and then change it about the quality of man.
Yeah. Well, and she's not wrong. Yes, the quality of men today is not good. I mean, listen, I'm no John Rambo or uh, Arnold Schwarzenegger or anything like. I'm not that. What the kind of American ideal of like a tough man is. But I think there is something where you know some people some of these um, Tradicons would look at me as like, oh well, you play video games, oh you watch all these movies, or you do all this stuff, and it's like you don't do blah blah blah. It's like, oh okay, no, but that doesn't make me less of a man. It's not like I'm uh what it's like I said, I'm not like crying my eyes out every like 5 seconds over something. Like, yeah, there's certain things that like get my emotions rolling. Like, I watched Rocky, gets my emotions going. um there's certain moments like where yeah, things are overwhelming. But it's what I do is I have to, there are times where you need to have that stiff upper lip and whatever, and just kind of roll with the punches and just keep moving forward. um but like I said, I'm not like what
Right.
this super tough, whatever, Giga Chad. I'm never gonna be that. I don't really care to be. I am comfortable with who I am. Uh, but yeah, it's like this is, and I went through the military. I was, it was not easy. I mean, it was. And I don't want to even compare my experience to like what our friends of the channel like David Blake and Peter Lim went through, because they went through so much worse than I did. And our friend Santa Claus, who went through, he was really in the shit with Vietnam, and just the crap that they went through is, yeah, those are tough dudes.
But anyways,
Um,
when you engage in a debate, even a friendly one, you be sure, keep your head on a swivel, as they say, because they're gonna, because they're gonna sometimes they're gonna pull a sleight of hand, and you're gonna you'll be talking about one thing, and then your opponent's gonna switch uh, topics on you, or the slightly augment the argument, to make you go down a
and it,
different road. But just make sure that you stick to the main point. You stick to the point that you're trying to make, and you won't have an L.
yeah, it's she did this like whole deflection of your momentum and shifted it to like kind of like knocked it to the ground. She went all Jackie Chan on you.
Yeah, I mean,
But like what what if I had been there, what I would have told you is like, well, yeah, okay, you talk about like the quality of men that are out there and that are trying to fight a war. Well, you know what created that quality of men? Women who have been babying and feminizing men for the last 50, 60 years. And yes, you are unfortunately on like, the, not that you personally are doing that, but like all the people that you look up to as far in like the feminist community, yeah, you're the problem. That's why, because you have not only like made it socially unconscionable to be like a strong man and uh, whatever, but because you bought into the lies of what the hell like these women were talking about. It's like, you know what's never been socially acceptable is abusing women. No time in history has it been like a socially accessible or acceptable. God, wow, I can't talk that I can't say that word today. It's never been so acceptable for men to abuse women. At least as far as this, at least in like the last 200 years, it has never been socially acceptable to just beat the fuck out of your wives and your out of women. Those people would be strung and quartered. So the fact that that these feminists have been, oh well, I couldn't even get a credit card or whatever without my husband's permission. It's like, well, yeah, there were some things that were like a little crazy, but beating wives was not. No guy likes that. No guy
Yeah, and I mean,
wants
yeah, it's like
part of
the
that.
whole argument about like, oh, the rule of thumb was made so like came up so like like you don't beat your wife with anything thicker than a thumb. That's bullshit. That's utter bullshit. I could totally dismantle that. That was actually a carpenter term. You use your thumb. The rule of thumb was that you
Yeah.
literally use your thumb as a unit of measurement when you're building
Yep.
things. And it was never
Yeah.
the social the social what's the word I'm looking for, the social no, it wasn't the social the social acceptance of beating your wife. That's completely ahistorical and
Yeah.
wrong. But yeah,
So it's like, but her generation has
yeah.
bought into the lies
Well, yeah. I
of the
mean, that's why
previous feminist
this
generation.
interaction is so hilarious to me because she again, she's a recovering feminist, and yeah,
She's
but it's
turning
funny because she
around.
agrees with me,
Like,
and yet she still tries to fight me on this one topic of women's suffrage.
but she's not fighting you. She's fighting herself
Yeah, that's what really what it is.
because her
Yeah.
old habits die hard, and she's
Uh-huh.
wrestling with herself right now. She's wrestling with like the things that she realizes are not the right way, and she's like, and these new thoughts and these new ideas that are coming into her, that she's like, wait, that sounds
Yeah.
logical and correct. No, it can't be true. And like it's kind of like her own like Faustian
Yeah,
like
but
wrestling
she's like
match that she's
she's
going through.
utterly admitted this to me. Like she's like, I don't like it, but you're right. You know, like the whole
Yeah.
yeah, and so
Well, and like I said, you don't have to like it, but the truth is not there for you to
I
always
know it's
like.
just yeah. So I just tell her just accept it. All right. Yeah. In fact, you should be an advocate for it. Because I mean you as a
I
recovering feminist should know. You should know. And another good, particularly if they're more religious minded, you should totally use this argument, in which I did, and that is like, oh, women voting, that's unbiblical. And it's funny because when I said that, it got like the whole because all everyone that was there
oh
were
man,
believers, and they're like, what? How is that unbiblical? I said because it
the
takes.
sphincters must have like just you could hear the whistling from the sphincters
Yeah,
like
well,
closing
yeah,
shut.
and I said it's unbiblical because a woman's vote sets her up against her husband. It was yeah the women's vote was specifically designed to cause division within a family. And then it's so funny because like I guess like they're
Yeah,
so innocent they didn't even understand how that works, and then I was like, well, how's that happen? It's like, we'll say the husband wants to vote for something one way, but then the wife comes in and says, oh no, I don't think that's right, so I'm going to vote this other way. The wife is essentially canceling out the vote of the husband.
Yeah.
So and then like when I said that, they're like, "Oh yeah, you're right." I was like, "No, you didn't think about this."
It was meant to be like one vote for a family because you were a family unit.
Yeah, exactly.
You voted a
It's
certain
like
way.
you're literally what's the word? Yeah, I mean, like with the women votes, you're literally peeing in the bathtub.
And if you think like, and so here's the other thing too that people don't realize. Oh well, what if the wife has certain thoughts, but like the husband just wants to go his own way? It's like, listen, that is, you know, yeah, I don't care what you saw in like in movies and television. In reality, look at like a guy like John Adams, right? Have you ever like read the letters that him and his wife shared with one another? His wife was a huge part of like a lot of his political like they worked through a lot of that political strategy and like trying to figure things out. She was a huge part of his life. One, they were deeply in love, but it's like, hey, you know, he would consult with his wife about how it's like how should I like deal with this situation, and that's actually the
Right. I
norm.
mean,
That
they think,
you know,
yeah,
they both not like one guy just like, oh fuck these people, fuck this, you know, my wife and my kids and all that stuff. Like, no, they were. There was a lot of consultation that was happening with their wives. Like, man, like, what do you think we should do about this? Yeah, how should I cast my vote? How should I, you know, this is a serious decision to make, and they would talk
yeah. I
about
mean,
it.
just like yeah,
I
okay.
mean, yeah, we don't.
Let's say like they wanted to raise taxes, you know, to fund some program, and then because now the wife has a vote, you know, she votes in favor of that tax, but then she does not realizing that takes away money for her family.
Yeah,
So so like this, so giving the women the right to vote is going against, like, setting the wife against the husband, which literally in the book, the Bible, like that's that was the whole thing with Satan and the temptation of Eve. It's like to set the wife against her husband. And it's so funny because I guess
yeah.
because women, we know you're highly manipulable. All right. All we have to do is show you a sad looking puppy, and you're gonna sign your fucking the deed over to your house to fucking Cheryl McLaughlin. All right,
Oh,
we know, all right,
good
we know,
lord, yeah.
and that's why, and that's why, and that's why,
No, oh,
and that's why, yeah, that's why they wanted to give the women the vote because they're so fucking retarded.
I wasn't
I'll
gonna go
fucking go
that
there.
far.
All right,
Jesus
women are
Christ.
fucking retarded. All right, and if you literally will, to save someone else, slice your own throat, then you're a fucking retard.
But yeah, I would. I like I said, had I been there, I would have helped you with like the. Well, it's because women have made it socially unconscionable for like men to actually be men. You've called them toxic
Yeah,
for
let's
like
just
the
okay.
last,
You know what? I'm just gonna be
you know,
toxic from
30.
now on. I'm just gonna speak. I'm just gonna. Who's that guy? He's a UFC fighter, but like clips of him just like letting people how it is, like particularly about like the social dynamics between men and women. He's just been like, it's been pretty awesome.
Is that? Oh God, who was? He's actually.
Yeah, I
What
forgot.
the hell
I
was
just
his
saw a
name?
clip of him today. But yeah, it's like
Wait, is the guy who, like, was that the guy who ended up like when they were over in like Bahrain or whatever it was, and he's just like preaching the
no,
gospel
not
out in the
that guy.
octagon?
But yeah, there was like an interview. Like he was doing an interview with like some chick, and like it was funny because it was an Asian girl, and I guess like he was like starting to get into like clothing, and he was like, It's like, hey, like I was like, yeah, someone teach me in Chinese, like it's like work faster, or like he's like, if you don't meet today's quota, you get no food. And I was just like, he didn't give a fuck, and so yeah, women are retarded. They need men to restrain them from their retardedness, and and you should all give up your vote right now.
Yeah, the Ninth Amendment is pretty terrible. There's a lot. There's actually a few amendments I'd be like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
we
of
need to
course, yeah, like
just
the
kind
whole
of
like
get.
voting for senators, that's fucking gone. Um,
Yes,
what
thank
else?
you.
You know what? Hot take. I'd get rid of the slavery amendments.
What? Okay, but
Why not?
why? I'm very.
'Cause I think okay, I don't okay. Let me clarify. I don't agree with chattel slavery, but I do believe in the slavery, uh, like the economic system, like how they have it in the Bible, where you could you could put yourself in slavery as a means of paying off debts and stuff, and then also having it
Okay.
also in biblical, or at least the way they had it in the ancient world, it was only for a certain amount of time. So you're only enslaved for X amount of years, not like the rest of you, not the entirety of your life.
So you would, like I said, essentially you're signing a
Mm-hmm.
contract for like which is kind of the
Mm-hmm.
case in that case. You would kind of essentially sign a contract like I'm gonna be indebted to you for or signing myself over for 4 years to pay off my debt to you because I can't afford it.
Also,
And
you can be enslaved if you're slower than the person who's trying to enslave you. So if you want to enslave, there'd be like it'd be kind of like dueling for like honor. It's like I want to make you a slave for but it have to be a certain amount of years, not like forever. And like if and there would be like a foot race, and if you're able to beat the other guy, then the loser has to be your slave.
oh god, we're gonna get in so much trouble for this shit.
Dude, but it's fair though. But that's fair. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying we should bring back slavery based on skin color. No, 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 no.
No,
I'm saying
it's
bring back slavery as an economic device, and but also as a way to keep certain people in check, like the infirm or physically challenged.
oh man, and I'm thinking like, oh god, what's gonna get clicked out is like, hey, we should get rid of the slavery amendments.
Yeah, I don't care.
Good
I don't
lord,
care. I'll
Andy.
stand on it.
I know, and listen, hey, I'm ride or die with you, buddy. Like
That's fine. Yeah.
it's
Okay. Robert is his own
just
man, and my beliefs don't reflect on his beliefs.
no, Andy. Like, listen, we are a team. Whatever, you might have some like crazy takes, some hot takes, but you know what? I ain't gonna abandon you for your hot takes. So that's how we roll here on Circle of
Yeah.
Jerks.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, even okay. Yeah. Like take this clip. Clip it out of context. Whatever. All right. But you.
I might not agree, but I don't like. I'm not gonna like just like, well, this is atrocious. I can't abide by what you're saying, Andy. You need to apologize for your statements. Like,
Yeah.
fuck that
And
shit,
yeah, and
man. Just like, you know what? Say what you
we'll even
want.
have to follow biblical tradition. We'll have a max cap of 7 years.
Well, I mean, that was I think pretty biblical, and like they would because one thing that was never observed in the Bible, but was a stipulation was the
Exactly.
year of Jubilee, where all debts were forgiven, all like contracts were kind of like torn up, and things were reset. Like, and so if you had given up certain land rights had um, that you had, like it's like it was your land, but you gave it up to pay off a debt. The year of Jubilee, all of that was returned to you, and from everything that we saw biblically, never observed. And actually, if you math wise, and I don't know, maybe Dan the man could help me out with this a little bit better. I don't know if he how he thinks about this, but the years that Israel was in captivity in like Babylon and Assyria is like it's like a sevenfold time for how many years they did not um, observe the Jubilee year, which was like every I forget like how many like, it was like every 49 years or something along those lines. It was some sort of like factor
Yeah,
of
yeah,
like
yeah.
7 or something like that. And so because they never observed the year of Jubilee. Um, that's honestly that would be a really good Bible study to do on that at some point. We might have to talk about that. We might have to talk about the year of Jubilee. You might be on, you know what, Andy, you might be onto something. Kind of need to bring this back, and we can celebrate every like 49
There you
years
go.
or
Make
whatever.
slavery great again.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Good Lord. Oh God. Andy, I love you. You're crazy.
Yeah, I'm fair. I'm fair. Okay.
This is what
Like nothing I said is like, yeah, it may be shocking, but when you really think about it, it makes a whole lot more sense than the current like system or like the perceived way things used to run. Yeah, because I'm not saying
what
make slavery race based. I'm saying bringing it back, as a voluntary mechanism for like banking or like economy stuff. But then also like if you can't beat someone in a foot race, then you have to be that person's slave and have a max
well
cap at 7 years.
I will say this because uh what people don't realize, we have more slavery going on in the world today than
Oh
has
yeah.
ever occurred in uh there is a giant amount of sex slavery that's going on, human trafficking that's
Yeah. I
going
mean,
on.
even
You
beyond
have
that, like the whole like it's funny. There's a reason why they call it wage slave.
yeah, well I mean
And I mean,
that's the other
just like
thing.
yeah, just beyond
We
like the kind of
have
the obvious like yeah, sex slavery and trafficking, blah blah blah. Let's talk about the wage slave. All right, there's a reason why that term exists. There's a reason why like it resonates with people.
you're essentially forced to get a bachelor's or master's degree at like 100, let's say at the median is like 60 or
Yeah, if
seventy
you go to
thousand
like
dollars,
if you go to a
right?
state school.
And then if you go to a state school and then you get a job that requires that thing, and even if you get like a moderate like raise every couple of years, you get promoted every couple of years, you essentially are working to pay off the debt that you didn't need to take on in the fucking first place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying that college is completely useless. There are certain degrees that you get at a college that are useful, and you do need that extra training. I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying every degree is useless, but 90% of the degrees that are going on in college nowadays are fucking
Agreed.
useless. And because the government is involved and you are constantly like, oh, we need to add the diversity inclusion of such and such this, and like the assistant dean to the dean of the dean of the
Yeah, I mean,
dean.
if you guys are
It's
wondering
like
why your tuition keeps going up, it's because of stupid shit like
it's the
this.
government.
Because like they're like the mandating for like the office of like diversity, equity, inclusion crap.
That would be your federal education stuff that's going on. We need to get rid of our federal education
Yeah, the
departments.
Department of Education, like federally, that should be dissolved. Yes, yeah, yesterday.
And here, you know how we start that? Yes, because right now, if we're just trying to lobby the government to change the laws, that's not going to work. We need to start it from like companies that are kind of against the grain of things. Stop like requiring degrees for your jobs. Most of the stuff that is going on in companies today can be learned
Yeah, you
there.
can learn them. You can learn them
You
in
can
like three
train the
days.
people.
And all it is usually like
Yes.
a process or a procedure. That's all it is. Like there's nothing like, you're not like,
Yeah.
you're not shitting out electrons or whatever, or like diffusing, putting together nuclear reactors. It's like use
Yeah.
this use
Listen,
this
if you're
cover
working
sheet
like a
for
nuclear,
for this form. Use this cover sheet for this form.
right now, if you're working in like trying, working on people, or you're working in like a nuclear power plant, stuff like that, or you're working with
Yeah, if you're talking about
something
something like highly
uh,
technical and like skill based, then yeah,
complicated,
college.
got it. But that's like a very small percentage of jobs out there, uh, where like majority of the stuff you can kind of learn on either on the job, or you can kind of learn on your own. It's crazy to think that like, oh, I was, it was funny, like when I was unemployed like a number of years ago, I was actually like, well, I know it's not ideal, like I don't necessarily want to work in this place. Like I was looking at like becoming like a garbage man. I was looking at like waste management. They were like a bachelor's degree to fucking pick up trash. Come on, like that's ridiculous. Or to like to work in something that's like just teach me what to do. Like I can work with my hands. I'm not a dummy. Like, and but it's like, oh yeah, you need a this degree, you need a that degree. It's like, why? I don't need that degree is useless to me. And so you're wanting me to spend some like 50 or 60 or 70 grand on average to have a degree that it's going to take my whole career working in this job to pay off. Fucking ridiculous. So I just that is slavery. Uh, Among the other stuff that we're seeing, like in the news with human trafficking and sex slavery, like which is so much bigger than like people realize. It's nuts, Andy. The wage slave, the wage slave is a real thing, and there's so many people just in this country who are wage slaves.
But yeah.
Actually, you keep it going. I gotta go to the too. Goddamn.
What is it? Yeah. I mean, kind of getting back to the original premise. Uh, uh, how my friend switched the topic over to the quality of man. Uh, it is. It, we can blame women all we want, but ultimately, it's men. I mean, if you want to live a certain way by a certain ethic, then men ultimately have to take responsibility. Uh, for everything, even if it's not their fault. And I know that's not something that most people want to hear. They just want to hear about how all women are bad or toxic or whatever. But men have to take ownership, take responsibility for what's happened, um, and and uh, and try and try to move the needle the other way. And in terms of in terms of like the whole like schooling system, it's partly the reason why men have become kind of like shadows of themselves, um, is because of the schooling system. And the way that it's catered towards girls. Like I mean, literally. Like if Johnny is too rambunctious and he's distracted and he's causing a scene in class, what's the first thing that a teacher might say? It's like, oh Tommy, why can't you be like Sally over there, sitting quietly, reading her book and not causing any trouble. That's the first stage. And then when Tommy won't comply, what's the next thing that they do? They instantly diagnose him with ADD or ADHD, and then put him on pills to essentially chemically castrate him. Um, so I mean, I don't know if you caught like the first part of what I was talking about, Rob, but it's like ultimately it's up to men to take responsibility, even though it may not be our fault. We as men have the burden of responsibility. I mean, even though you could say that we don't have authority, which responsibility without authorities is tantamount to slavery. Um, but ultimately, if men want to to gain some sort of equilibrium, we have to push back. Um, we have to push back, and not in like a revolutionary sort of way, but just in little ways here and there. Just when you hear nonsense, just kind of like push back on it, and also, um, no longer rewarding bad behaviors. And so,
yeah, I agree. It's just we live in a society that has created soft men, and we have to kind of like turn that back around on itself. And like I said, it's not like I said we don't need to become the Terminator or John Rambo. We just need to be strong biblical men that are there to support and love their wives or the women around them, and just as Jesus would love as Jesus loves the church. And at the same time, like it's all about, it's not, this is not some sort of like weird like you must submit, god damn it, I'm a man and you're a woman. That's not what we're talking about here. That's not biblical. That I think that's what the lie that's been perpetrated
right, and
by these
that's what
these
has been so insidious, because yeah,
it's
because
a collaboration.
they don't tell a true lie. They tell no, I'm sorry. They don't tell a straight lie. They tell a lie mixed with truth. And
Yeah,
so yeah, it's like
just like the devil.
just like the devil. Yeah.
Devil.
Yeah, that's why I say the feminism started not in like the 1800s or whatever. It started in the garden. All right. Is that what is? Did God really say that? That was the beginning of feminism right there.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, yeah, it was.
Is that what he really said? right? Because yeah.
Well, all right.
Just
So
just
next
to kind of put a bow on it a little bit. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't have any hard feelings about my friends or whatever. It's funny because like the real fun started, or the real fun happened when I told them that that in the Disney animated Beauty and the Beast, that Belle should have gone with Gaston and not the Beast.
God, I haven't seen Beauty and the Beast in
Right.
forever. I'm so like I outside of like the love story between like Beast and Belle, I really don't know. I remember Gaston, but I don't
Right. But
remember
then
like
yeah,
the
my whole
story
point is like
behind
because
all.
again, I was like I told them like you have to get past because because one of my friends or one of my friends' wives, she brought up like oh well Gaston was like so arrogant and whatever. And it's like and he's such a he was so like so she didn't use these words, but she might as well have, but like toxically masculine. But then I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, but you have to look past the feminist framing of that movie. All right, you have to look at Gaston, as an individual. You know, he had a skill. He was a hunter. He was also
Right.
likely a fur trader. So that means he made a lot of money for himself. He was able to provide. He was respected and liked within the town. That song that they all sing. You know, no, there's no one like Gaston.
Right.
And also he contributed to the local economy. Because again, in that song at the tavern, he talks about how he eats 3 dozen eggs every morning. To keep up his physique. So he's actually a net benefit uh, for a woman and for the general community around him. Contrast that with the Beast, who was a spoiled rich kid who literally judged a book by its cover. In casting away, what turned out to be like this beautiful fairy who was disguised as this homely old woman. And he displayed very feminine qualities, like not being able to control his emotions. When he would have like those outbursts of anger, and he held Belle captive.
True.
Switched flip the framing around on that, and you would people would say like, oh man, the Beast is horrible.
I wonder, because there is a 1946 version that's in that I actually do want to watch. It's been on. I've seen it on HBO Max, although it's just called Max now. I think it's also on Criterion as well. It's been one of the films I've been like, I didn't know that there was a 46. There's actually a lot of these Disney films too. Obviously, they come from whatchamacallit, a lot of them are fairy tales or like old stories, but there's a lot of like old movie versions that predate the the Disney films, like Beauty and the Beast, Jungle Book, all these films that are they're really good. It's just not, it's I wonder what the maybe these other films are like a little bit more realistic and
Well, I
dark,
mean, it still tells
as
us.
opposed to like,
aside from like the love story or whatever, it's still essentially probably telling the same story about like beauty skin deep, and like the a good woman will tame like even the savage beast. So
well, so here's what the premise of the 46 version of Beauty and the Beast is. I know we're going on a fucking tangent here, but I don't. Whatever, it's fine. The story of a gentle-hearted beast in love with a simple and beautiful girl. She is drawn to the repellent but strangely fascinating beast, who tests her fidelity by giving her a key, telling her that if she doesn't return it to him by a specific time, he will die of grief. So he's manipulative here. She is unable to return the key on time, but it is revealed that the beast is the genuinely handsome one, a simple tale of tragic love that turns into a surreal vision of death, desire, and beauty. Now, who knows if there's a Gaston in this version, but it sounds interesting. It's a French movie too. It's
Well, I mean, yeah, probably,
has
yeah, because also, the story of Beauty, the Disney animated movie, it takes place in France, so.
yeah, so it makes sense. But I would be curious to watch that because that's probably going to be a little bit more on.
I'll also send you the video essay talking about how Gaston is actually the right pick. In the
I love stuff like that where you get like the real villain of the film
yeah,
is actually
like
this
the whole
person, and like it's
Daniel is the real villain of the Karate Kid.
yeah,
Which he is.
which he is, but it's and well, I don't know if there's another video out there talking about this, but Rose is a fucking villain of Titanic.
Oh yeah, like I knew that from the I knew that. I mean, I knew that.
That's I've hated that movie since it came out. I ended up having to go to like 3 different showings of that film for some reason. I'm like, I really just hated this film, but like it was kind of like I didn't have a choice. I was like, well, I guess it's better than nothing, but better than something else, I guess. But it was just like, my God, Titanic fucking sucked.
Boobies 3 times.
That is the only redeeming. Well, that is true. That is the redeeming factor of that film. So at least you get like one moment of reprieve in this like film that she is just fucking a terrible person, especially the fact that like she wastes all the money and time of this expedition looking for the fucking thing that she has on herself, and then she throws it in the ocean at the end. You fucking bitch.
Owen Benjamin has a great bit about that. Yeah.
Does he?
Yeah, well, because he breaks it down in the soundtrack song by Celine Dion. My heart will go on.
Yeah.
It's like every night in my dreams. It's like, oh, so while you were married to this other guy, you were dreaming about Jack, fucking cunt. I see you, I feel you. It's like, oh, you feel him inside you, like the time that you fucked him, in that car on the boat. Yeah, you feel him.
Yeah. That you left him to die in the fucking right. Frozen ocean, you bitch.
And like you again being selfish and not giving that fucking priceless jewel to your granddaughter who's fucking like she looked like she was like she looked like the kind of like standard like bohemian artist type who's probably struggling and like why not just leave it to her for an inheritance, you dumb cunt.
What a Rose is such a selfish bitch. I fucking hate that movie so much. Which brings
me back to the original premise is that women shouldn't vote.
Yeah. Rose is probably one of those people that was advocating for the 19th Amendment. Fucking bitch.
Yeah.
God damn.
That was a bit of a wild ride there, but I'm glad we stuck the landing.
We did stick the landing. It's like we had like a 1680 twist turn like there in the middle, but we stuck the landing.
All right. Again, I didn't think that it would get that deep, but it did. But anyways, let's get on to the second topic for discussion tonight.
Yeah, but obviously the big topic at hand is still the stuff that's going on in Israel and the Israel versus Hamas war and all that, and really it does tie in a little bit to the Russia-Ukraine war that's going on too.
I don't know if it's true, but I heard Hamas is Hebrew for evildoer.
I'd had to ask Dan about that. I
Yeah, this
actually
is
don't
something
know.
that I heard, which makes me think that this is all psyop. But anyway, continue.
Uh, my point is like, listen, we talked about last week. I am not like anti-Semitic. I care about I care about like innocent people that are getting involved in this crap. Like, it's there are a lot of innocent Ukrainians and Russians who are involved in this shit who don't want to they just want to live their lives. Same thing over in the whole thing that's going on with like Israel and Hamas. There are people who are in the Gaza Strip who they just want to live their lives, but they can't because of their shitty ass government. And same thing with Israel. You have a lot of people there that they just want to be in Israel. They just want to live their lives. And so you have these governments who decide that no, we need to have this, and they want to vie for power and all this stuff. And when there are these conflicts, now our government, because we tend to stick our nose where it doesn't fucking belong, in which is in the last 60 years has been pretty much every fucking conflict. And the other thing is like it's a money making venture. It's not about like, we're doing the right thing. We're trying to help like the innocent, and we're trying to get them democracy, and we're trying to do this. And it's like, no, you're not. You are. This is a money making venture. Why do you think that like any sort of conflict around the world, unless it like it doesn't like advance their specific interests, like there's certain conflicts where like maybe we should kind of like see about like at least challenging these people, like Taiwan and China. Like when it comes to like Taiwan's like, we need help, and like we're gonna be dying here, and we're the ones that are making a lot of these computer chips and stuff that you rely upon. It's like, eh, no, we have a lot of money invested in China. We don't really give a shit about you. But then, like, any time that there's some sort of other conflict around the world, the same fucking people and it doesn't matter their political party. It's the same people that pop up every fucking time about like, oh well, we need to go over there, and we need to like put our nose in it, and we need to send billions of dollars of aid that this country doesn't have to help them. Why? Because it's a money making venture. It's all about, like I said, it's all about money. It's all about it's not about some sort of sense of duty or kindness or whatever. And I think people get confused where because the media will show like, oh, we need to these people are suffering, and we need to step up as like the superpower of the world, and we need to help them. And it's like, you don't care about them either. And it's funny how like how many people have like flipped on their, oh shit, Israel's kind of not the bad guy here. We need to the Palestinians are just some evil bastards that like need to be destroyed. It's like, it's funny because 10 minutes ago you were saying the exact opposite, and then and they turn their back on the people who have been like at least consistently like supporting like the Palestinian regime. And it's like, I just I hate all of this stuff. I mean, and I know like it sucks to go back into the black and white, into the history of like stuff that happens in this country, but Dwight Eisenhower talked about this very thing about like creating this military industrial complex, that it's not good that we stick our nose everywhere, and that we create this like big conglomerate of U.S. military that is processed in the world to fight these battles that we have no business being in, just because it makes money, and it's to vie for power. It's not good. It's not a good thing. We should be wary of that. Uh, and I like I said, it just I really hate this stuff, and I hate how the media manipulates stuff. I hate how you have these politicians who have, there's still people in this country, especially, who are so easily swayed one way or another. Just like kind of like the women with feminism. It's like they're so swayed into believing a certain thing or one way or another, and it's just it's kind of
Yeah, I mean,
disgusting.
what is it?
And y
The right kind of gets down on the on lefties because like, oh, you guys are so easily manipulated, and it's like, oh, like, yo, you received the latest download or whatever. But the right is just susceptible to this.
it's happened. We just talked about that last week. It's like they're literally doing the same fucking thing that the left does, where like you have this like manufactured tweet that every
Well, I
like
mean,
so-called
in
conservative.
I mean, what is it? The right is a little bit different because I think as much as we like to say that the left is driven by emotion, the right is also driven by emotion. And no greater examples have there been than the whole report about how Hamas fighters are going in there and decapitating babies. It's no different than back in the 90s to get us to go into Iraq was when they said like that the Iraqi Republican Guard were going in there and bayoneting babies in incubators.
It's
That's how
crazy,
they do it.
right?
I mean,
It's
and
like,
then again, like
am I?
I've been there's been some really what is it interesting things that have been coming out, particularly about like that Tim Ballard guy, the Sound of Freedom. But even
Yeah,
that, it's like it's like, oh, these poor children, they're being trafficked and blah 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 blah. It's like wasn't there a movie about that came out like 15 years ago? It was about taking things. It kind of dealt with the same thing, and yet, and everyone like didn't really do mobilize as much as they did with this movie. Yeah, it's like something taking or Taken. There you go. There was a movie called Taken, and people got their panties in a twist, in for like about 5 minutes with that when that movie came out too.
yeah, you're absolutely right, because it's but like when Sound of Freedom came out, and which is really like, I don't know if that's like completely based off of a true story, but it is a true thing that is
Right, but I mean,
happening.
just like, but
But
people are saying,
because
people
it's
think,
done,
but like the manipulation that went into it is what the issue that I'm like trying to highlight because it's like again, like he's like it's the kids, the right, they're easily manipulated by stories of children being harmed, as opposed to the left, they're easily
yeah,
manipulated with stories of injustice being done to people. So it's the same thing, but just different triggers.
yeah, it's I'm telling you, like the not everybody. There, because I do. You and I would say, we're on a political island where
Yeah,
we have
we're politically
no one
homeless. We're
around us.
politically homeless.
Because I will never Democrat. I'm not a leftist. I'm not any of that. But that, man, some of the shit that goes on supposedly our side of the aisle, like what I get accused of being, is like, well, I don't believe in that either.
I know.
It's
Yeah,
kind
but
of
I believe in winning.
I'm not in
I
the
believe in winning.
and I'm not like a libertarian either. That's
Oh
some
yeah,
other like crazy ass like
yeah, that's
tangent that I'm.
basically
You know,
neutrality disguised as like yeah,
that's nothing. That is a nothing
libertarianism
party.
is
I
libertarianism
believe
is
in nothing.
neutrality disguised as principled like stances. It's like, oh man, as long as it's not hurting me,
Yeah.
man, as long as
It's
you're not harming anybody else, whatever, man. It's like, no, there's no such thing as neutrality. There's no such thing as
that is
neutrality.
I call that is the nothing party.
Yeah.
Believe in nothing. You are a reed in the wind
Yeah, it's
at
basically
that
that. Yeah,
point.
it's like as long as it doesn't upset majority of people, then you'll tolerate it. So like yeah, so again, if majority of people and that majority is 50 plus one, if they decide that pedophilia is fine, you're like okay, I get since majority of people agree with it, that's the libertarian party right there.
Yeah. It's just so I really I hate what's going on now. It's like the media manipulation, the people that you would think would be like we would agree with more often than not. And like sometimes we do. Like sometimes we do agree with these people that are kind of like, "Oh, we need to really, defend Israel and all this stuff." And it's like, yeah, there is a little bit of like strategic value to the United States there, sure. But does it warrant like funding another war around the world that we cannot fucking afford?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when again, kind of going back to the homeless thing, like we have U.S. citizens living on the street right now. All right, and you want to talk about and you have U.S. citizens being stripped of their rights, being stripped like like the like the January 6 people who are right now like still in prison without charge and without due process. Like there's not even a date for their first arraignment. They're just in prison. Their rights are being completely trampled upon. But then you want to go and spend all that money. You want to send all that money over to help some other country, secure those people's rights. It's ass backwards.
It's like it's like the fucking Count of Monte Cristo over there.
Yeah, it's ass backwards. All right, because you want to say it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna help defend democracy. It's like, but what about these political prisoners and you know over here in our country? It's like you shut up about that.
No, well they should. It's funny, like those same like conservative people are like, yeah, well they shouldn't
Yeah,
have been
that's
there.
another
So
thing.
it's kind
Yeah,
of stupid that
and
they were
again,
there.
like the the like the conservative Republican sometimes their reputation is merited. Like the whole like the cold callousness of them. It's like, oh well, they shouldn't have been there. Kind of like with I mean, again, I understand, but like the whole debt forgiveness thing, and they the constant the common refrain or response to that is like, oh well, they chose to go to school, they chose to get those useless degrees or whatever. It's like, but they had no chance. All right, because they were brought up in a system. Yeah, they
They've been
were they
lied
were
to their entire
indoctrinated into a
fucking life.
system like constantly telling them if you don't go to college, you're gonna be a failure.
Yeah, they are creating slavery, debt slavery that we just talked, wage slaves that we
Exactly.
just talked about. I'm so fucking tired of like these guys too, where it's like you chose to do this, you chose to do that. Oh, they shouldn't have been there. It's like, listen, asshole, like it's you don't you're talking out of your ass, and you wonder like why you get the criticism you do. It's like, I'm not saying that they're 100% wrong in a
Right.
lot of
Yeah.
things. There's times
Yeah.
where I
I
do
yeah. I
agree with.
totally get the angle of responsibility, and you signed the promissory note, so your name is on it. So stand on it, son. Stand on it. I get that. I totally do. All right. I'm still kind of in that situation, but but the callousness of it, and that's why that's where I think those on the right do merit that heartless kind of categorization by those on the left,
Yeah.
because
Plus,
it's callous, it's heartless.
there are there are some of those guys on the right too who like they have been on third base their entire life and thought they hit a triple, and it's like then they talk about people about fucking responsibilities. Like, shut the fuck up, man. You didn't earn your way to that base, okay?
Yeah, you didn't. Yeah,
It's
you didn't face down the pitcher. right? To get to third
Yeah.
base. He didn't face down the pitcher. But
But yeah, it's there's a lot of that. There's the idea because war is a money making venture. You know, it's funny now that I think about it too, because in when it came to school, I don't know if you did this as well. Like when you're talking about, like, obviously when you're studying U.S. history, we talk a lot about like the Depression. There's a lot of that, and there was all these programs that were in effect by that was put into effect by FDR, but none of those worked, obviously, because they're all bullshit programs that are, unfortunately, a lot of them are still in effect today, especially Social Security,
right,
which is
yeah,
a
again,
fucking
yeah, that was
scam, by the
all supposed to
way.
be voluntary, not compulsory.
Yeah, but the thing that really took the country out of debt was World War II, which is, because war is a money-making venture. And now there is some material out there that says that there was actually no reason for us to get into this war. That because we were, in a way, kind of similar to what we're doing in like Ukraine and Israel and whatever fuck other country that we're helping with. Back in the day it was Vietnam. We were sending aid to quote, aid is in air quotes because it was like weapons and like it was actually military like funding to some of these countries, and you wonder why that you get attacked. Japan attacked the United States because of that funding that was going over to to England and the aid that was going over to them. So because Japan was caught between they weren't sure who they were going to attack. They were either going to attack Russia or they were going to attack the United States because of the funding that was going on with from the United States to like the strongest allied power in Europe. Well, why do you think that they attacked us? Of course they attacked us. And similar to what was going on with 9/11, there was actionable intelligence that was out there that's like you're going to get attacked. But it just kind of fell through the cracks, and then the attack happened, and then we're going to war. I don't think that was. I know it's crazy to think about that. I don't think that was completely, I think that was a little bit by design. Maybe not like necessarily all the details, but it's like, well, we're just gonna kind of go with the flow and use that, because then it's like obviously people wanted blood. Same thing with like 9/11. It's like I think all Americans were like, yeah, fuck those people, and let's send a message. You're gonna punch me, we're gonna punch you twice as hard, which I completely understand. So war is, now obviously we don't want a war on our own soil, so we help fund these other wars around the world because it's a money making venture. It just is.
Yeah, what was that rationale? It's like, oh, we fight them over there, so we don't have to fight them over here.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, like the whole 9/11 thing. Yeah, again, a spell. It was a spell was cast. Kind of like similar to Pearl Harbor. So, oh, we were attacked. It's like, oh, it's like so many brave Americans. We have to get our revenge. Yeah, that was a spell.
Yeah. No, and I'm not saying that like I'm not one of those like 9/11 was an inside job. They blew up the buildings. Like it wasn't actually the planes and blah blah. I'm not into that. But there was a period of activity that was leading up to this, and there was definitely looking back, there was actionable intelligence that was being put out to our government who chose not to act on it or to investigate it in any shape or form. I think it's like I said, it's not an inside. Maybe it's a if you can't,
Well, I think,
it's
yeah, I'm not
what you
saying the
can't
U.S.
achieve
was
right now.
complicit, but it was somewhat of an inside job.
Because I would say it's more stupidity. Maybe it's more stupidity than malice, but
Because
it's
I don't know if you ever heard of this guy Ryan Dawson, but like he's compiled like he's actually done like several, or he's done a few 9/11 documentaries, and the evidence that
mhm.
evidence he puts forward is pretty compelling, I have to say. I mean, again, I
Well, because
haven't
I mean,
come to a
not like
conclusion, but the evidence is very compelling.
not even like a year before this. Like you had like the USS
Hmm.
Cole that was bombed. You
Yeah, I mean
had I
and then
mean,
the few
literally,
what is it? Like I think because that happened, yeah, because that happened in like the late '90s, and like in what was it, '94? There was like, I guess like the dress rehearsal as when the what was it? Yeah, the World Trade Center were bombed, but they were bombed like from the parking garage.
90, yeah. Which it's crazy to think. I mean, say what you will about Alex Jones, but he was right about that too. Where that was kind of like there were people that were sent in there to
Hmm.
create that issue. Similar, like with like the what we saw with the worst terror attack in America, January 6th, where you had people that were probably
Hmm.
government
Yeah,
involved
government
to create
agents.
that situation.
Like not necessarily saying that they carried a badge or anything, but assets. Agent provocateurs. Basically very easily manipulated people, like people who like with a record, and the FBI is like saying, "Hey, do this thing, or we're gonna throw you in jail," or "Do this thing, or we're gonna let this stuff leak to the press."
Yeah, but yeah, there's that going on. It's like I said, it's all a money making venture. Governments are they are a I think a necessary. I don't know. Are they a
Well,
necessary evil? It's kind
well,
of
I
like
mean, in the Bible,
where
they are called deacons. They are what's the not deacons? Well, yes, deacons. It is a yeah. The government is a decanical office. Uh, what is it? The government is, God gave government the sword to keep it out of our hands, because if we had the sword, we would just kill everyone who cut us off.
yeah, that is true. But like I said, it's
I mean, ideally what uh, government should be more of a biblical model. Again, they're deacons. They're magistrates. There you go. They're magistrates under God, doing the Lord's will. Make
yeah,
taking on the sword. So that justice can be as impartial as possible.
right, right.
So yeah. So yes, government does and should have a purpose, and in my opinion, a biblical purpose. Following the precepts of within the Bible, but you know we're in the we're in the world that we're living in right now. And so yes, I do believe that government has a purpose, but it's just I don't think that government is living up to its purpose.
Okay. Like I said, we've been kind of connecting some dots in history here, um, and there was something else that I was thinking of too about going back 100 years to World War I, and obviously the deployment of chemical weapons, obviously like gas and like nerve gases and shit like that, and those ended up after World War I. Those ended up becoming like, if you are involved in that, it's kind of like there's some serious repercussions. Repercussions to like to being involved in that kind of activity. However, we are kind of catching ourselves in a similar fashion, because the all around the world there are virology clinics that are popping up, and these places are being funded by some of the worst people in human history, and it's to essentially, they call it gain of function research. I call it weaponization. I think you would agree with that on that, Andy.
Yeah, I
Where
mean,
they are
yeah.
trying
If you
to
just look at the
weaponize
definition of gain of function,
it.
it's weaponization. That's all it is.
For what fucking purpose? Oh, well, we're trying to, make it as bad as possible so that maybe we can find like a solution to fix the natural one. Okay. Well, what happens if like there's a leak in the lab? Oh, well, that doesn't happen.
Here.
Fuck no,
Top
yeah,
men.
right. You don't think? Yeah. Well, I have a feeling that does happen, because we just spent, for a few years under like, the craziness of COVID, which was which has now been accepted. Oh yeah, it was a lab leak, and the newest strain of whatever the COVID thing is. You have scientists who have been like from around the world who have been studying it, and they're like, yeah, this doesn't occur in nature. This is lab made.
Right. Yeah. Just like taking a look at the strain and
I mean, they
noticing
just,
like the cut points. It's like, oh yeah, here's a cut point. That's a cut point. That's a cut point. This isn't natural.
so I'm not. Yeah. Once again, we're not saying that it doesn't exist. We're not saying that it's not dangerous to certain folks, but it's just kind of like, come on, people, pay attention to, like, Dr. Fauci has been lying to you for 40 years, whether it be AIDS or this or whatever fucking else he's been talking about. Pretty much, that guy will lie his ass off to do whatever. He'll say whatever he needs to say to make sure that he keeps his job. That's what he's gonna do. And sure, like, this guy will eventually, either be retired or pass away, whatever. I don't know if I don't know if he's still
No,
in
he
office or
stepped down.
not in
He
his
stepped down.
position. I think finally. Um, but it's funny because I keep hearing his voice. God,
Maybe, possibly.
it's like, yeah, he stepped down, but like,
if you spin around 3 times, then maybe, possibly, we'll give you your rights back.
yeah, you cut his head off, you get like 3 more of him. It's like three
Yeah,
more
yeah, he's a
versions of
Hydra.
him. Yeah, it's just. But the virology clinics are akin to the people who were developing chemical weapons back in 100 years ago, back in World War One. I mean, that it's the same fucking thing. There's no reason for them to be creating these like super strains of viruses. It's all government funded. Well, probably UN funded, because they're all around the world. And it's funny how not only are Dr. Fauci personally involved, but like the the division that he was under, like what was it, the NAC, the NIC, or whatever the fuck it was.
Some
He
alphabet organization.
Some alphabet soup of an organization, which is a U.S. funded organization, was investing money into those. So you wonder why that when they are under some scrutiny by the Senate, you wonder like, oh well, we're denying that. No, that never happened. And it's like, Fauci's lying his ass off, and the only one who had some fucking balls to come after this guy was Rand Paul. The rest of those politicians, they're probably like in some way like financially, connected to these
Yeah,
people.
I wouldn't be surprised.
There's some sort of financial investment that these people have to the NIC and funding these virology clinics. There's some that's why no one talks about this. No politician outside of maybe like a handful of people are talking about this shit.
Indeed.
I mean, I can't think of the thing that Eisenhower warned us about. It has gone way beyond any I can't say that word either. Fathomable uh, idea that they would have had back in the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah, we live in this is where I've said this too before. It's like this is where I'm glad that I'm a Christian, because if I wasn't, I would just be like, man, we're completely fucked. There is no hope in the world because this government is so corrupt now. I don't think that there's any coming back. I don't think I it's I would really feel that. I feel like that there's no hope for us to overcome the evil that is in the world right now.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you can't. It definitely feels like we're at the point of no return. Back to the Future 3. When they're on the train tracks and they reach the point of no return, and they can't they can't just slam on the brakes and stop the train. Uh, we're at the point where I think we have to let the train just fall, run itself off the track. And I know
Yeah,
how black pill that sounds, but it's just realistic. And also, there's some optimism in there too, because once it falls, that's an opportunity to create something better in its place. So
that
yeah,
is true.
I choose not to see it
I mean, there's
as
some.
I choose not to look at it like a defeat. I look at it as an opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. It's the world we live in is a crazy place, and yeah, we have a lot of war hawks in our government, and I think now, like, for a lot of people, especially like the public figures, we can kind of figure out who the war hawks are, because anytime there's some sort of conflict out there, we need to get involved.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
we
mean,
need
what
to
was
do
it like?
this.
Nikki Haley and what's that? What's that Fruit Loop? Lindsey Graham. Like they had like that insane take talking about like going out for blood and
Well, Nikki Haley is on the she's on the
yeah.
board of Boeing. Yeah. Or like Raytheon, or one of those companies that has defense contracts that get paid for sending their shit over
Hmm.
to these other countries.
Yeah, but they had like again
Why?
like they had these like ridiculous takes talking about like go go end them or send them and or like get your revenge and stuff like that. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? But again, a lot of them do hold stake within these defense contractors. So it's only natural that they'd, be in
Yeah.
favor, or they'd, be spouting off this sort of rhetoric, this make war type rhetoric.
Yeah. You know what? I was talking with you about this a little bit before we started recording today, but I'll bring it up now because I think it's a little bit relevant. Because we talked about like some of the just the weakness of the GOP primary debates that are going on right now, and I've actually changed my mind on one of the candidates, and because there was an interview that Vivek Ramaswamy did that I think kind of changed my mind about him, because he kind of addressed some of the stuff that we're kind of talking about here, about some of like the corruption of like the finances in political candidates and stuff like that. And he's an outsider. He's not like he's not a career politician or whatever. Yeah, he's never served in like Congress or any of that shit. And one thing that I was really impressed, well, I mean, there were several things, but like one thing in particular that I was really impressed about was that, yes, he's like, yeah, I'm a businessman. I do have, I am like challenging some of like these like kind of what we would consider like these evil corporations like Google and BlackRock and all that shit. But because right now that I'm running for a potential presidential bid, I have set in motion to divest my interest in those companies because I'm running for public office, and it would not be right of me to keep profiting from those companies, and because I'm in a position of like legislative power, to be continue to be guided by that shit. What politician do you know who's ever talked about that? That's really interesting. And some of the stuff of what he's talking about, like dealing with like the foreign conflicts that we're in. He had a really interesting take too, as well, as far as uh, not necessarily like like he does not agree with like what's going on in like Ukraine and Russia. But he did have like a solution to like fix that issue over there, and like it's yeah, it's gonna take like a little bit of you know, um, essentially he's working on trying to get the U.S. out of there and not let them deal with their own fucking problem, but not in like a ham-fisted way like Biden would do it. And that, but as far as like there's that conflict with China and Taiwan that is kind of bubbling up, and Taiwan is the center for like where all our computer chips are formed over there. Well, what I would do is that we would find a way where we can get like some of the other countries involved that are invested in that area, like that are allies, like Japan and Korea, and then we'd also work on kind of getting them involved in like producing this stuff, as well as you know, uh, bringing people over from Taiwan to help help us to learn how to train and help Americans produce these same things over in this country. And that doesn't mean that we're going to just completely like throw Taiwan to the wolves, but it just means that like we take once certain things get uh, divested away a little bit from like where Taiwan is not this like huge pressure point for China. It kind of helps like kind of get buy some time for like things to develop in a way where China doesn't get like the benefits of like, oh well, it's only in one place, we just had to take over this one place that is you know a lot a smaller of an area. Whereas, like, if we can kind of spread that out and make it a little bit more, um, where more people are able to develop this stuff, which is kind of this is the wave of the future. we're not having to like fund a war in Taiwan, and we are doing good things over there. Yeah, it's just kind of it was just kind of interesting because that's not what you would hear from like just your run of the mill politician. So I was actually kind of I was like, so I thought it was kind of interesting. I was like, so he did impress me a lot more than he did in like the most recent debate. Maybe because it was more of like a long form. He got a chance to kind of speak and say like what his platform actually was, as opposed to like wrestling with like that fat ass Chris Christie and Nikki Haley and Mike Pence and shit like that. He actually got to speak his mind and like what's actually like his plan is if he does become president of the United States, which is not going to happen. Let's just be honest, it's not going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, he's not going to
But
get the nomination. Trump is as popular as he ever was, and again, like miscalculation from the left, but like these indictments and these prosecutions uh, are only strengthening his position. I mean, and also boosting boosting his popularity amongst black voters, particularly those who have felt, who have been on the receiving end of corrupt prosecutions.
yeah,
There's this viral clip of this guy, and he has a shirt on that says "Niggers for Trump." Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I heard from that guy. Oh my
yeah,
god, it was so
he
great.
was like, and he was spitting facts.
And
Well, it's like spitting facts from like certain perspective. Like talking about how like Trump was the only one for black people and all that stuff, and like he understood like, oh yeah, like they always going after the man that's like standing out and whatever, and like
when that guy was like talking, oh my god, you could hear like the buttholes like
yeah,
just like eek,
yeah, the buttholes were like whistling Dixie.
yeah, oh my god, because that guy was
Mm-hmm.
speaking some truth, man.
Yeah, but I mean, again, because principled stance, Trump is going to be the same age as Biden was back in 2020, so I can't vote for him.
That's what I was talking about. That's where I was like, I was kind of looking at like obviously like DeSantis was
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the front runner to begin with, as far as like outside of Trump. When you look at the other candidates, I was like, well, yeah, DeSantis should be the guy because he's been doing some great things over in his state as governor. And then, oh my God, he has shown me
Yeah, I
zero.
mean, yeah, whoever again, I
In the
repeat myself because I've said this before, but whoever was in his ear, like they should be fired. All right, because whoever told them
yeah,
like, oh yeah, you should totally run this time and you could totally beat Trump, they were just they're I honestly think that that might have been a Democratic plant to try and derail his chances. Because if he
yeah,
sat out this round and then waited for after Trump, then for sure he would have cinched the nomination. And he might have even won the presidency after Trump. But someone got in, someone
yeah,
got into his ear and told him like, oh no, oh yeah, you should. This is your time. You should totally capitalize on all the goodwill that you built up, with your policies and how you govern Florida and things like that. You should totally make a run for the presidency. Wrong, utterly, totally wrong.
wrong. That's where it's like when I look at well, one, Vivek is young. He's not much older than me, but he's a
Really,
smart
I'm older
guy.
than that guy.
He he's
Okay, yeah, well, yeah, I'm still
38.
older than that guy. Wow, but he might be my year.
So yeah, I mean it's like we're all like
Yeah,
he's essentially
wow.
our age. But the guy
Mm-hmm.
he's a smart guy, and he has a plan. And honestly, like I kind of do hope he makes it a little bit further in the primary. I don't know if he will, because a lot of the people who are actually like good tend to get weeded out. But yeah, man, he actually impressed me a little bit. He's not, like I said, he's not an established politician. Thank God. We need to have more people like that, like running for offices, who don't plan on like being in there for fucking ever. Because yeah, we really need to get rid of the fucking career politician. They need to go away. It's exhausting. Yet for some reason, year after year after year, these same fucking guys stay in office, and then like we just had Dianne Feinstein die, uh, and she what? I don't think there was a year that we were alive that she wasn't in fucking office. Almost.
Practically, yeah, practically.
Same thing with like even our representative. How long has Brad Sherman been our representative here from like our
At least
district?
since I was in junior high, man.
A long ass time. That's unacceptable.
Agreed.
He has represented nothing. But anyways, that's all I had to say about that. I see like I really wish people would look back just a little bit into the past to see like, because the same things that were happening back then are happening right now. It's a different package. It's different wrapping, different bow, but it's the same fucking prize inside.
Yeah,
It's a
it's a
fucking
turd.
piece of coal,
It's a turd.
all right? Or it's a turd, yeah. Whatever your soup du jour is for the day, it's a turd. It's a piece of coal. It's something. It's something that you don't want. But for whatever reason, people keep fucking buying into this shit. They keep being fooled by the mainstream media. They keep getting fooled by the politicians that they don't really vote for.
Indeed.
So,
All right.
stop it.
All right. That'll bring us to the end of our topics. So let's have a bit of a palate cleanser. Again, to our movie review for tonight. Reminder: tonight's movie review is A Night at the Roxbury, starring Chris Kattan, Will Ferrell, Molly Shannon, Richard Grieco,
Richard
Ava
Grieco.
Mendes. This movie was pretty star-studded. I mean, like
It
either
really
like
is.
past
Yeah.
stars or like up and comers.
Colin Quinn is another guy.
Yeah, another SNL alum.
Alumni, yeah.
Yeah, let me hit everyone with the synopsis and we'll get going. Despite being well into adulthood, brothers Doug and Steve Butabi still live at home and work in the flower shop owned by their dad. They exist only to hit on women at discos, uh, though they're routinely unsuccessful until a chance run-in with Richard Grieco gets them inside the swank Roxbury Club. Mistaken for high rollers, they meet their dream women, Vivica and Canby, and resolve to open a club of their own.
You know what, Andy? I might disappoint you a little bit. This is similar to Superstar. This was somewhat enjoyable.
Yeah.
It was a moderate success. It was a $17 million budget, which is Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
That's too much
they
for this
invested a
movie.
lot.
It made 30 million, so it like similar to Superstar, probably broke even.
I mean, probably why they didn't that they didn't have a sequel. Yeah. I mean,
Thank God.
just
There's
thinking
no.
back on it,
Can you?
of all the SNL inspired characters, well, not. I mean, which one has had sequels?
Well, there's been at least two because you had Blues Brothers had the unfortunate Blues Brothers
Right, but I don't
2000
really
remake,
count
which
that.
was
I
or
don't
the
really count
sequel.
that.
That's fucking dog shit. That sucks. Yeah, but Wayne's World had a sequel. Now Wayne's World is a fucking great movie.
Mm-hmm.
That is a great comedy. The second one
Yeah.
is okay.
Right, yeah, I mean, just
That's
like yeah,
about
in like
it.
the late '90s, early aughts SNL inspired movies, none of them had sequels.
No, God
Yeah,
forbid if this had a sequel. Jesus, like
yeah.
what?
I mean, there was Coneheads, but that was really like I think one of the no
Did
Coneheads
Coneheads
didn't
have a
have a sequel,
sequel?
but I think Coneheads was still well received. Uh,
Oh yeah, Coneheads was enjoyable. It's not the best, but
yeah.
it's pretty damn good.
Interestingly enough,
It's
though,
funny.
it's another Dan Aykroyd linked property.
Yeah, because Dan Aykroyd
Exactly.
is not an idiot,
Yeah,
and he
yeah,
know
he's not a gambler. He's not gonna let it
he
ride. He knows. Like I'm pretty sure he knew that Coneheads would not have done well with a sequel.
yeah, but he had enough fortitude to like kind of write a decent script. I mean, he's part of the reason why like Ghostbusters
Mm-hmm.
is a success. Blues Brothers was a success
Mm-hmm.
because of him. He's the one that like helped like was the big
Mm-hmm.
writer behind that. And he didn't have Lorne Michaels sticking his fucking nose in everything, which is the success of Blues Brothers was the reason like why Lorne Michaels like, well, I'm not gonna let
Yeah,
the
yeah, Lorne
guys take
Michaels
characters that
learned
they.
that lesson. He now like put has a finger in like
Now
every
understand.
pot
Now I
that
get why
comes his
he.
way.
Yeah, no, I get why he
Yeah.
did that. I'm just saying that it's good on Dan Aykroyd for kind of not letting Lorne Michaels take Blues Brothers away from
Mm-hmm.
him. Smart, but yeah, it's like, overall this film is kind of
Mm-hmm.
it's fun. It's not it does all these films especially of this era, The Ladies Man, Superstar, this there's a certain
Mm-hmm.
formula to them, right? Like doesn't it feel a little formulaic? Yes, the characters are different, the story is somewhat different, but there's like this convoluted love story that shows up. There's this like weird uh, problem that they have to solve. Some of the everyday sequences are just kind of like or show like oh they're like these super cool characters that like they get made fun of on their like the ladies man gets made fun of on his like radio show or whatever. It's like he gives all this like shitty advice that everyone's like, oh that's so disgusting, ladies man, but you like it in the butt, right? It's kind of like this, but he's kind of a loser that hangs out in
Yeah,
this
shitty
like
dive bar.
really shitty bar. Yeah, and like he's kind of a little bit like Boomhauer from King of the Hill, where he gets rejected a
Yeah.
lot. I mean, he fucks a
Right, but
lot of
again,
chicks, but
I
it's not
argue
like
that
it,
Boomhauer still has more successes than losses.
he does. He's not batting 1,000, but he's batting a respectable
Yeah.
like 350. The ladies' man is not batting 350. He's batting like 200. It's like the with like Superstar, there's like that. It sets up like this one love plot, this weird love triangle where uh, Molly Shannon's character is going after the Sky, Will Ferrell's character, and yet like you have Harlan Williams' character, who like is in love with her, and it's like you set it up like where she's like what's her character's name? Molly Shannon's character.
Mary Catherine Gallagher.
Shit, I'm forgetting her. Thank you. She's going after like kind of like the super popular guy in school, but then like when she has that opportunity to be with him, and oh well, I actually don't care about you, and it's like that. What it doesn't
Right,
doesn't make any sense.
It also has
Still,
the flaw in that. What is it? They're still awful kind of people, or like the they don't display any like sort of integrity. Because like with Ladies Man, you know, he professes his feelings for Julie, makes out with her, and then remembers who the chick
goes
was
off.
that's promising, you know, to give him money or whatever, and like leaves Julie. And then you have Mary Catherine Gallagher, who gets the kiss with the guy that she's always wanted, but then because it's not what she expected, or the magic wasn't there. She then realizes, oh, it's this guy who I mocked, when he was a little kid, and like he was actually my true love, and then she goes and has the fireworks kiss with that guy.
What would be that situation in this movie for you?
In this one, it would be if there is one.
If there is one, I'm just like because.
Yeah, I think this is the one. I think this is the trend breaker. If I'm remembering correctly, there is no question of integrity in this one. I don't think.
You know what? I kind of agree with you because I would say that
actually, in fact, listen. I think this movie is about keeping your integrity and staying true to yourself. Because like what is it? Because the dad keeps trying to pressure, Will Ferrell's character to oh you're the he's kind of like the golden boy, and he's the one who's supposed to carry on the business and then also expand the business by marrying one of his a neighboring business, so they could like combine forces. And the girlfriend character, interestingly played by Molly Shannon, tries to change Will Ferrell's character. I think it was, is he Steve or Doug?
Will Ferrell's character is shit.
Oh no, he's Steve. He's Steve. Yeah.
He's
Steve. So Molly Shannon's character is like trying to change Steve, because Doug and Steve are these two club hopping kind of guys, and like there's that scene after Steve and Doug have like their falling out, and Molly Shannon's character comes in as like the girlfriend and like makes Steve throw away all his clubbing stuff, like his silk shirts and his disco balls and his house music. And so she's trying to change him.
Yeah. I do love like the a little bit of cinematic archaeology, like the what was that movie with John Cusack?
Right. The Satan thing. With the boombox.
Yeah, where he's so was it Satan? Yeah, I was like, that was kind of. It's like, what the fuck that they're putting this in this movie. But there's actually like quite a bit of cinematic archaeology in this film because they do make references to right. Much better films in this movie. But I will say, yeah, I think you're right as far as like this movie does have a message of staying true to yourself. You have a certain calling, and sometimes that means disappointing your family, right? So in the case of the Patabis, their father runs which is so ridiculous, this fake flower business that is just this booming empire. Apparently, I've never seen a fake flower shop just be like this. It has allowed them this like giant mansion that they live in, and they're trying to merge empires with a lamp. It's like a lamp business, which is so ridiculous. Which is fine, I mean, it's a comedy. You have to be a little bit over the top. But the fact is, like, the clubbing world is also ridiculous as well. But in that universe of like the clubbing world, Steve and Doug have some really good ideas because the clubbing world is ridiculous.
It's all spectacle. And,
well, what if we put like the inside, like outside, and like outside inside? That's brilliant. And it ended up becoming the new trend. And was you had the character. They ended up being able to hang out with Chaz Palminteri's character, who was the club owner of the Roxbury, and they hung out all night. They shared ideas with him and like set up a meeting, but because his like driver / assistant that was played by
Colin Quinn.
Colin Quinn, who was jealous of that because he didn't have those ideas, he decided to turn on Steve and Doug.
Wow, not even a mention.
It's like, oh well, he was drunk. Whereas like, and so like there was this whole meeting that they had set up, and they were it was all set up for them, like, and they were to make money, and then they got kicked out of the building from Colin Quinn's character. And this is kind of like where they went on that journey where they had an argument. You had Molly Shannon kind of like throwing her pussy at Steve, and yeah, like I said, it's a little crazy of a plot. It's a little weird, but as far as like where the moral integrity goes, as far as like when it comes to like, oh, we just radically switched their characters, or like at least the plot that we're taking them on, we're taking the audience on. Yeah, this is the trend breaker. It's really not that bad of a film, actually. I kind of liked it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Oh wow! Chaz Palminteri wasn't even credited for this role.
No, get the fuck out of here. He was not credited. Well, I to be honest, I don't blame him for like not wanting credit for this film,
right?
Because he's an actual movie star. Like, why I wouldn't want to be involved with this shit.
Yeah.
Have you seen A Bronx Tale?
Yes, I love that movie.
That movie is fucking amazing. And
when that came? Oh, it came out in '93. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That was right.
I was just kind of confused because he looked fatter in this movie. So I thought that this might I thought this is like him, like prior, because I kind of forgot that Bronx Tale came out, before this movie.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know, like he looked chunkier in this movie, but I understand why he wouldn't want credit for this one, but I mean, it's still other than that, it's still enjoyable. There's no problem of integrity in this movie. Although, like the pacing is really weird and off.
It's not a long movie, but like, it feels long.
And like the whole thing at the end where, that the Chaz Palminteri character, Zadir, that's his name, would like honor like be so honorable into as to cut them in as partners in the new club.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of odd. You don't think that he would have like that type of integrity? He looks like a real, swashbuckler, swarthy piece
yeah,
of shit. But he actually honors his word, which
right.
is
I mean,
crazy.
and
Um,
I guess it does show up in that he actually did want to have that meeting with Doug and Steve, but Colin Quinn's character is the one was gatekeeping him to make sure that they wouldn't. Uh,
because he was
what was that?
because he's
Right. Well, I
jealous.
mean, I don't know. I didn't get jealous, but it was kind of like he was definitely jaded, because of the eccentricity of Zadir. Like he's used to maybe Zadir might have had like this habit of you know palling around with like these random club guys, but then like it not working out, or Zadir maybe Zadir was very mercurial, and so that which reflects in the line when Colin Quinn's character is like saying, it's like, oh, how many times I've how many times I have to throw out guys that, or people that he's met on a random weekend.
Mm,
So yeah, I don't necessarily think like he was jealous. It's just like I think Colin Quinn's character thought he was doing his job, and oh yeah, it said like, oh, how many guys I had to kick out on a Monday after the Saturday. So I think more or less he's
well,
jaded, and he's just exhausted from this kind of eccentric nightclub owner, and I guess in his mind I think he was doing his job.
yeah, because the reason why I read it is him being a little bit jealous is because literally what they're talking about in that conference room is they were actually designing the club that Steve and Doug were
Mm.
talking about, and the they had the previous night they had kind of like made fun of Colin Quinn's character, like, oh, go in and buy like 14 canisters of whipped cream so we can all do whippets. It's like, and they're kind of just like talking
Mm.
shit to him all night. So why wouldn't he like have some sort of like jealousy or vindictiveness towards them? But that's just how
Mm.
I read it. Yeah, I mean, and I mean, I'm already like paying this movie like we're I think we're thinking
I
too
know.
hard
I
about
think
this
we
film
are, but
already. It's like let's dive into the character of Colin Quinn. Like, let's figure out like what's going on in his mind, man. Like, because this is really deep shit. That is not what this movie is.
I know this
This is
movie's
not
not
what
that
this
deep.
movie is
I
about at all.
mean, or at least it's not as deep as we're making it sound. By this character analysis
It's
of
really not.
Colin Quinn's character of what is it, Dewey. There you go, Dewey.
Do we? Yeah. Oh my god. Uh, were there any moments that like laugh out loud moments for you? Like, what did you like? What made you laugh about this film?
Um, what is it? Like genuinely laugh out loud.
Well, what made you chuckle? I'll just say that. What made you chuckle?
Um, oh, when the essentially prostitutes hook up with them, and they're all
Yes.
and it's like because they're like so inexperienced that they keep going with the openers, like they do like the opening
Yeah.
lines.
I did, yeah.
That
I
was
agree.
pretty
That
funny
was pretty.
because yeah, it's like these guys who are adults, you know, and who are purportedly been in the party scene, have not. They have no idea what sex is.
What sex is.
Or they don't.
God,
they never progress past the introductory phase of it. And so, yeah, they've been rejected so
like
often,
every time,
or all the time. That even when like they're literally in the bedroom with the women, and they're still trying to pick them up.
Yeah, it's like, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah. And that when at the wedding, Colin Farrell, I mean not Colin Farrell, but Will Ferrell's character of Steve, Steve hits on one of the bridesmaids at the altar. That was
What's up?
Yeah, so you from out of town?
Yeah.
that was legitimately hilarious.
That was hilarious. I also loved, like, there was that moment with, like, Steve and his dad where they were having that, like, the like, kind of the engagement dinner or whatever with, like, the families. And they would they broke off into Steve and his dad broke off into the kitchen. It's like, and he's talking about all the ways like he wants to like just fucking like just kill Molly Shannon's character, and it's like, is that normal? Yeah, that sounds about right. It's like, I just want to like shove like a Twizzlers like up her nose until like she can't breathe anymore, because I hate the way that she like what her breath sounds like coming out of her nose. Is that normal, Dad? Yeah, sounds about right to me. Sounds normal. It's like, oh, okay. Because he's so like, it's so weird. Like I said, the characters are so weird, so over the top. I also did like the scene like where they call back like kind of like the club hose that they initially had sex with, and it's like they think that it's a joke, the band that they're in with like all the fake flowers. Yeah. It's like, and when they realize it's not a joke, it's like, oh my god, I really hate like these pathetic losers. It doesn't matter if they're rich or poor. It's like they're all the same.
that was actually a good line.
It's kind of true. There are rich pathetic losers. So, like I said, there are some significant like funny moments in this film. It's the story is not completely nuts. I did kind of like there's a little bit of a backstory between like these losers from the Roxbury that we grew up watching on SNL, which were really funny skits. Watching them and like whatever guest get rejected by a bunch of women it was a lot of fun. And normally like those type of skits don't get made into halfway decent movies. This is actually not that bad. It's okay. I didn't want to kill myself afterwards, so and it did make me laugh at points. I might actually watch this again at some point too. So not bad. You didn't kill me this time, Andy. Not like the first week you got me. First week I was like, why did I allow this revenge to happen? But the last couple of weeks, it's kind of like you're stabbing me with the rubber knife, not the sharp knife.
Well, we'll get ready for the Bowie knife next week.
Oh God. Next week, I don't want to think about it now.
Enjoy this momentary bliss while you can.
I still have to finish. I gotta finish up the other part of like the because like the Bowie knife sometimes has like some other edges on like top of it. Part? The serrated part. I gotta finish the serrated part. The MacGruber show.
Why? You don't need to do this. You don't need to take the entire Bowie knife into you, Robert. All right, that's your own doing.
If I'm
That's your own doing. You don't need to do. You don't need the. You
if
don't
I'm
need
gonna
the
talk,
context of the TV show to.
give me the
Oh my
full
gosh.
Monty.
See,
All right.
then yeah, you don't have my sympathy because you're doing it to yourself. All right. You don't have my sympathies because you're doing it to yourself. All right, because you're a freaking what is it?
But
Masochist. You're a masochist. There you go.
that
Yeah,
is
I mean
true.
you're a
That is
sadomasochist,
true.
but right now you're just being a masochist.
But how should we rate this thing? Andy, this is your choice. How would you rate it, buddy?
I'm gonna give this a decent 3.
I can't
Okay,
go
that's
that
fine.
high. I'm gonna rate it the same as Superstar. I like it about the same as I did Superstar. It is a 2-star film. The characters are mostly likable. Obviously, they drew in a crowd of decent actors: Chaz Palminteri, Michael
Oh yeah.
Clark Duncan, Dan Hedaya, Ava Mendes, who was still kind of like
Lonnie
early in her
Anderson.
career. Lonnie Anderson, although she was on her last
Yeah.
fucking legs. She looked terrible in this film. Um, but yeah, and it's not. This is another film that I would put on either in the background, or I would have on at a party where we're drinking and we're gonna make fun of it. That's where this film belongs. It is it's fun, but not like where I'm gonna enjoy this by myself ever again. So 2 stars.
All right, 2 stars. There you have it, folks. That's our review for A Night at the Roxbury. Robert gives it a 2. I give it a 3. It's an enjoyable movie to be for sure. Um, your level of enjoyment may vary by person.
I think you found my kryptonite, Andy. Shitty comedies.
Oh yeah, because you hated what is it, Cop Out.
Fuck Cop Out. Oh my god, that movie.
Although
sucks.
there's a scene that's been going, the clip been going around from that movie of the kid stealing the car and just like cussing out what's this, Tracy Morgan.
Oh my god.
Like, fucking nigga, I got kids.
Oh my god, that movie is so bad. Memes fucking suck off of that one. Oh my god, that is a black hole of a movie. I'll just say that. It sucks all the enjoyment out of the room.
Yeah, well, yeah. Now I know your kryptonite. So.
Oh no, I should I just should have kept silent. I should not have let you know what my weakness is.
Now I know. Now I know. Now I know the pressure point for you. See. Right now, you only know that I despise The Last Jedi. Yeah. But,
oh no, I know.
Yeah. So that's
I know.
yeah. So that is but one. That is just one. That's basically one hair follicle.
Next year's October, you have no idea the amount of pain I'm gonna bring you.
Well, should we announce it? We'll keep it under our hats for right now. But,
oh no, I'm not gonna announce what I'm gonna.
No.
I'm keeping that under my hat.
The premise of next year's Schlocktober.
Oh no, there's no like it's gonna
happen.
I know,
but
I'm not gonna say
remember, what. Anyways, there you
go. I'm just telling you that I'm gonna bring the pain.
Yeah, but see, I figured out your category. You only for me you only know one movie that I absolutely utterly despise.
I'm gonna kill you. I'm just saying it's mutual destruction at this point because I hate these movies too, but I know that you are gonna equally hate them.
We'll see. We'll see. Because again, I know your category. Shitty comedies.
You,
Shitty
I
comedies.
can't.
Poorly written comedies. I got you. I got your number. See, you only know I despise The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi it does not make a category.
I have some films that are worse than The Last Jedi that are coming
All
your way,
right.
buddy, next
Famous
year.
last words. Yeah. Well, okay. Since it's out of the bag. Yeah. Next year is Stocktober Mutual Destruction. So Robert's gonna pick 2 movies. I'm gonna pick 2 movies, and it'll be mutually assured destruction.
Yes, sir.
So yeah. So something to look forward to next year.
Oh yeah.
All right, but until that time, this brings us to the end of our stream tonight. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. I know Rob always has a good time.
Tuesday's my favorite day of the week, buddy.
If you enjoyed this, don't forget to check out the library of other content that we have, the Circle of Jerks main podcast. And don't forget to check out that the newest episode that's dropped with Nom Santa Claus, where we compare contrast the 2 Dunkirk movies. And don't forget, also we have past streams of Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Rob's gaming show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, Twitter or X, and Letterboxd at Podcast COJ, and Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. And with all that said, we thank you for joining us tonight. Come back next week, and we'll do it all over again. Have a good night.